So let's come back to Andrew Carnegie. And this would explain to the listening audience not only why there is police brutality, not only why there is a prison industrial complex, why there is tainted foods and spread of genetically created diseases in laboratories to wipe out a group of people.
I don't necessarily agree with that. My background's in molecular biology and biological research. I've seen every conspiracy theory there is. The beginning of the HIV, my research into it was that they had created a retrovirus, a genetically engineered retrovirus that would seek us out and kill us off. Later, I said, I'm getting so many contradictions from where I began my research that I can no longer sustain those type of beliefs. Do they do manipulation in genetics to disempower individuals and groups? Yes. But we just have to be very careful about making accusations, because the young people have to look to you and I to be precise and accurate, because they have to build a future based upon what we say. And if we fill them up with unsubstantiated conspiracy theories, at a certain point, they don't have a solid enough foundation to build for the future.
Okay. So bring us up to your perspective. Just slide in just a little bit. Just bring us up to your perspective on what I said there, as far as if there is a group of people who were looking to eliminate the Negro, as they called it, what would be, in your perspective, besides the genetics, and then we're going to get back to the food for the last question, what would be, wouldn't that be a line of different people coming up with different ways to eliminate us? And just bring us up to date and bring us forward. Let's take the conspiracy away and let's go to the logic.
Well, it's far less complicated than what we would imagine. They convince us through advertising to eat ourselves into permanent sickness and become dependent on drugs. And they're very sophisticated with their advertising. They work on the conscious and the subconscious mind, deeply embedding false ideas in their target population, that we then begin to adopt these false ideas. Oh, those are our ideas. We feel those ourselves. So these people, they do exist. They are master manipulators. There's a book from Vance Packard in the late 1950s called The Hidden Persuaders that talks about their social engineering strategies. And so we stay up on that type of research. But the same things that can be used to manipulate a group of people toward their own disempowerment, those same tools can be used to reverse the trend and manipulate the group towards their own greater and greater empowerment. This is one of the reasons that we have special messages for young people. One of the key messages for young people is, don't give away your intellectual foundation to electronic, what we call electronic variances. So you'll see a group of young people all together, and they're all in proximity of each other, but each one of them is on their own personal device. So you're together and you're not together. Why not enjoy the moment of being together? Let your brains and your spirits and your creativity fuse together and come up with something that can be used to empower all the members of the group. But now we've been separated, and you don't have a clue. I don't have a clue what my daughter is doing all day long on this device. We can do better than that. And if we don't create a better pathway, we're going to lose our very soul. And our ancestors before us didn't work so hard to have us blow it all in 3 or 4 generations.
So not only is it the food, but it's the media that's being taken in through electronic means to affect our brains.
Mind control. That's quite simply what it's called, mind control. And the practitioners of this know what they are doing. They're led by theories solidly based upon long evidence of verifiable data. And most of us would be shocked and surprised just to see. I'll give you an example. I want you to repeat the lyrics of this jingle.
Oscar Mayer. Is that it?
Give me the lyrics. Remember them?
I wish I was an Oscar Mayer winner.
You do? You wish you were an Oscar Mayer winner?
No, I don't.
Okay, but here's what they said. Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I would truly like to be. Because if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, then everyone would be in love with me. And we're talking about a people whose self-esteem has been shattered, whose culture has been stripped away. Now, that little jingle, as innocuous as it was, basically says, if I were something other than myself, oh, I wish I had long flowing blonde hair and blue eyes. Oh, I wish I could wear $300 Stacy's. You know, then everyone would be in love with me if I were anything other than what I am. And that basic thought has shattered the self-esteem of a nation.
That's simple. Okay, let's talk about
And
the
it's
book.
not just that song.
No, it's not. It's more.
All of the songs.
It's all the jingles.
We're at a radio station right now. I love this station. I love the people who run the station, but for the majority of the week, I cannot listen to this radio station because the songs are filled with ideas that I must not allow these ideas to penetrate my brain. Or we have to deal with the real. Our young people have been fed a vast set of false, disempowering ideas for many decades. And we're suffering as a consequence.
Okay, let's talk about the three books there. That's what gave me the idea about the conspiracy and how each one of these are connected. Reparations, the road back to power, and food. And that's where I've been getting around to the question of how does, I came up with the 3 steps, and you put 3 steps. And these books seem to perfectly represent those 3 steps. So let's go through it, and which one would people start with first, and then lead them into order so they can pick up the books. Then we'll talk about where they can get them.
Okay. In the order of these books, this one came out in year 2000.
No. Which order? I know you put them out in a certain years, but what order would you put them in for people to start with?
That's a tough question because people have different needs that are individualized needs. Some people, this book was written specifically really for young people. 7 Steps to an African Global Order. Step 6, I regard to be the most important, called a new Sankofa for black youth, meaning go back to the past and recover that which has been lost so that you can move forward. Very important. Also, I talk about some of my own life experiences, like when the so-called Illuminati, a term which I hate to use, tried to recruit me. And
So that's not a conspiracy theory. That is real.
It's got a reality basis, but it's just told terribly.
when I read the Leviathan 666 book way back in the 90s, the Illuminati wasn't speaking of black people. It was more speaking of a secret society who had stolen ideas from Egypt and turned around to say that because we know this, we're enlightened now and we can thus rule the world, so to speak. Right. So it was more about white secret society or secret societies, period. Now it's with the music, and that's why I want to know how much of that is conspiracy. Are these people really in it, or is this a conspiracy? Because when I learned about it, it was white folks and not black people. So let's bring us up to date on that.
You know, Sammy Davis Jr. wrote about it in his autobiography, Why Me? And he talked about, had it not been for he had a gig in London, he would have been at Sharon Tate's party the night of the Manson murders, because he said Sharon Tate threw the best orgies in Las Vegas. And Sammy Davis Jr. was a Luciferian. And so don't be surprised.
He wasn't a black Jew?
That's almost like saying the same thing.
Oh, okay.
It's almost like saying the same thing. Don't get me started on that.
Okay, we're gonna come back and do this on another time. We can get into the Illuminati and all that, but so
This basically deals with 7 steps: race first, the remaking of world order, what happened to the Black Revolution, because in the late 70s, we were already on track to empower ourselves. What happened to that revolution? And basically, television came along, kicked our black emoji butts, gave us new identities from those black exploitation movies. Now, people didn't want to be Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali and Martin King. They wanted to be Superfly, the Mac, and these other new models for black urban male behavior.
Dolomite.
Dolomite, oh boy, that's how bad it got.
I have a debate about Dolomite because Rudy Ray Moore, though it was stereotypical, he still won in the end, and he outsmarted white folks in that story. And me and a film historian had a debate over YouTube about, he said that he was basically a stereotype, and I said, but he used the stereotype to actually get over.
It would have been different if some black artists, like the Renaissance artists, had written the script. But the script was not written by us. It was written by outsiders who were buffooning us. Rudy Ray Moore was a talented individual, but the ideas that Rudy Ray Moore propagated, I would not want my 3 daughters to absorb those ideas and think that this is how we can function in the black community. So I was no fan of that whole genre, that whole era. Luckily for me, I was a traveling musician, and I kind of missed all those black exploitation films. I just tuned out to about 2 decades of African-American culture. A lot of songs came up, the good songs came up in that era. I had to discover them 20 years later. I said, dang, that was some good music. That was during that period when African-American culture and me just didn't have much commonality. You know, I became a man of the world, started traveling around the world and world culture. Then I came back and I started seeing African-American culture in perspective. So that's that book, which kind of opens this journey. This was a futurist book. And the ideas I said that young people could do to empower themselves turned out, because the book is now 17, 18 years old, turned out those ideas were absolutely right. And if we weren't going to use them, others did.
Others did. Like they use How to Eat to Live by Elijah Muhammad and flip it around and say, yes, fasting is good for you. You can get 6 packs.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay, so the next book.
The second of these 3 books to come out, this came out last December, The Repairing, where we take this fundamental topic of reparations and we ask the question, do we have enough resources to repair ourselves? The Ken Bridges model. And I say yes. So we divide that into 9 categories of repairing, such as category number 1, compensation for stolen labor. But if you ask the average African American or scholar, how much do they owe us for reparations? You're not going to get a very precise answer. You're going to get, oh, they could never pay us, oh, this and that. Well, go into a court of law suing someone for reparation and say, well, how much are you asking for? What's the judge going to be expecting you to say?
A number.
A number. So how much do they owe us, and how do we calculate that number so someone else given the same formula for calculating the number can come to the same outcome? I come to the conclusion it's $24.57 trillion. And I show you the precise formula. And where is that money in the U.S. economy?
Does that include the insurance companies?
That includes the shipping companies, insurance companies, railroad companies. It includes the banks. It includes these merchants who benefited off of our labor, the plantation culture, the cotton industries, all of the industries, and stolen black labor built the White House. Now, if you took the interest on that unpaid labor at 5% annually, one might come to the conclusion, black people own the White House. So maybe we should be charging lease to anyone who wishes to occupy it. But, you know, there are other things that we can do to practically apply what we know now. Then the most recent book of these 3 to come out, Living Superfood Recipes, Volume 2. Now with Living Superfood Recipes, Volume 1, we created a nutrition-based paradigm that has saved many people's lives, including my own. Many people have said, this book saved my life. Well, now this is volume 2, where not only do we have more delicious recipes, doesn't that look like real food?
I mean, it is real food.
That's
It's
delicious
living.
food. It's living
But
food.
we got to worry about the strawberries being
Being-
HMO.
Not
GMO, excuse me.
GMO, but the strawberries have more pesticides in them. They're hybridized, so virtually all vegetables are hybridized, but strawberries are one of those ones that have the most pesticides. And you know, it's very, very difficult for the average urban family to go completely organic. I like to pick stuff out of my backyard. That's where I go. My first source for food is out of my backyard. But
And they're spraying chemicals with the chemtrails, or is that a conspiracy?
that's a whole other topic. But even as much as clean as I live, I still take 1 month every 90 days to detox, to get the heavy metals out, from the barium being sprayed in the air, to get the lead and the aluminum and these other metals out of our body, to detox the colon, to open up the channels by which the body can properly eliminate. And as a consequence of doing that, it allows me to age at a much slower rate. So we got great ideas. We got people like you helping us to distribute them.
Now I have last question. Last question, because we could be here all day because we went off to other topics. I said next time we got to talk this, we got to talk that, we got to do this. Okay, so your Eat to Live. My father in particular had prostate cancer, right? Is there recipes in there that help with people who have prostate cancer?
Absolutely. I call prostate cancer the cheese disease.
The cheese disease.
And virtually all reproductive cancers are related to the consumption of dairy products. Humans are the only species which feeds the milk of another species to its children. Can you imagine a giraffe asking the hyena to feed the giraffe baby? That's probably why the hyena is laughing so loud. Humans are the only species that continues to consume dairy products after weaning, when we no longer produce the enzyme lactase to break down the lactose and the other protein in the milk, and that's used to make glue. I can't think of the name of the protein right. Casein. Okay. That was what killed FloJo. She had a severe reaction to casein protein.
Oh, okay.
After eating a cheese pizza, she had a violent death.
Oh, wow. Is that
Beautiful woman. She even wore the milk in the mustache. Where's your milk mustache? She even wore that in a campaign for the very industry that made a product that killed her.
So prostate cancer is caused by dairy products, butter, milk. Mm-hmm. So the counteract that is that almond milk, coconut milk.
We can switch over, stop consuming dairy. Dairy it's not food unless you're a calf or a baby goat, a kid. You know, if you're a baby, you're supposed to be consuming breast from your mother's milk. And also we do know that certain things like ginger, just the consumption of ginger on a daily basis is known to be one of the most powerful agents for preventing prostate cancer disease. And the last point I'll make about this is all of this testing. People always coming at us. Every time we have a health fair, they bring out all these mobile testing units. Get tested, get tested, get tested. I don't play that. I don't get tested. I don't do any of them. Dr. Richard Amblin is the man who discovered prostate-specific antigen, what they say they're testing for prostate disease. Dr. Richard Amblin published a book called The Great Prostate Hoax. Talked about how the industry, the pharmaceutical medical complex, took his invention, his pioneering research, and turned it into a billion-dollar scam.
So prostates don't get large.
Well, prostates do. You get hyperplasia. They swell up. They're inflamed. Dr. Sebi said all diseases caused by mucus. Well, that's inflammation. So inflamed prostate is a problem. Cancer is a problem in America. But in ancient Egypt, it took 400 people to be in a room before one of them had cancer. Today in America, it only takes 3 people in that room. So maybe we need to go back and Sankofa ourselves.
So and go back and learn what we need to know from the past,
Well, we built the
and
world's
bring
greatest civilization.
and bring it forward to today. And that's where we're gonna leave it. This is a long one, but we went through 2 continents to get here. two different rooms. I'm just saying, 2 different continents to get here, to get to this conclusion. So, but this is just the beginning, because this is the ending of this one, but just the beginning of conversations in the future. So stay tuned for that. Oh, your social media. Then we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah, find me on Facebook. Keidi, Keidi. Last name Awadu, Awadu. Luckily, I got one of those names you can type my first name in a search engine, Keidi. I did this a couple of days ago. I had 10 pages come up.
10 pages?
Google, 10 pages of unique links to what I do. I have big footprint. I've just completed this week my 32nd book, and I'll have another book to be completed by the end of the year. The 32nd book is for private. Some other people bought it, and they want the exclusive rights to that book. It has to do with an industrial program. But yeah, we're here. We're ready. And I understand that your audience is particularly made up of young people.
Yeah, it's young people.
Those are the ones we really need to be working very closely with, because our destiny, they will be carrying it. The people born today are going to cross the finish line of this 400-year journey, 500-year journey we call the Ma'afa, the Holocaust of black suffering.
Maybe a little longer, since 5,000, right?
Well,
since because they've been around only 6,000 years, and so they. Oh yeah, but I mean even longer. We've been in a long, because Dr. Small, because I interviewed him, James Small. He said that it's been. They're here 6,000, and they had to come of age, and it's been like a 5,000-year war that we've had. That's right.
Well, you know, there were times in the last 500 years where we did great empires. Songhai, Mali, Ghana, great empires. And we're coming back to the point now, and we're literally seeing the configuration on the African continent right now of greater empires than ever before. So that's what I really want our people to. We need to close this chapter. In the book they're repairing, I have a chapter called The End of Ma'afa. Let's close this chapter of history, because remember, 70 years ago, the Chinese nation was completely shattered. Now, the Chinese nation stands as the #1 economic superpower in the world in 70 years. So for people, they have a 6,000-year history of record of civilization development. Ours is longer than that. So we need to stand our own cultural civilization foundation and reach for the stars.
And that's where we're going to leave it. The Black Ice Chronicles massive reach for the stars. And that's it.